Thank you all for attending today's USA Gymnastics webinar covering the top 3 success tips for your club featuring our business ambassadors. So today we have one of our guests, Ann Josephson, here to talk with us about all of these great things. And we also have our Director of Club Services, Lorraine Gallimore, here, and she's going to tell everyone a little bit more about our Club Services business ambassadors.
Thank you, Lakeisha. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time from your busy schedules. And I want to thank all the business ambassadors for getting their top 3 tips. Each person gave their 3 tips to Ann Josephson, and she has put together a great PowerPoint with great information. Ann Josephson is from Josephson Academy of Gymnastics, known as JAG Gym. I don't know if you followed her on her blog, but oh, what a brilliant lady. We're so glad that she is leading the charge with our, as being our chair of our business advisory.
Thank you, Lorraine. Your check is in the mail.
No, it's really true. And then we have Diane Barron from Barron Gymnastics in Missouri, and we have Tina Ferriola from New York City, New York. We have Steve Greeley from Cincinnati Kids First Sports Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. I almost gave a plug to Mary Lee there. Then we have Debbie and David Hawley, and they are from ASI Gymnastics in Texas. They're in every city in Texas with their 11 clubs. Patty Camara from Patty's All-American, and she's from Dyer, Indiana. We have Lynn Ledford, and she is from California, and she's been a great contributor as well. We have Jeff Lulla. Everybody knows Jeff. He is such a great ambassador for our sport and really helps us with our education, with the especially in our CAT accreditation and our kinder gym. Then we have Jeff Metzger. Everybody knows Jeff from his boot camps, and he's also the brains behind the Kids First Sports Center. And he's from Cincinnati as well. And then we have Frank Saline. We're not sure where Frank is from. Frank lives on the road, and he, in the world, I should say, and travels, and he just spreads the knowledge of what he has for all the people in the business of gymnastics. We're a great ambassador. And then we have Cindy Shantz from Branch Gymnastics. Cindy and Al own a Branch Gymnastics in Battle Creek, Michigan, and she is a new member along with Randy Sikora, and Randy is from Twisters Gymnastics in Boca Raton. So we welcome everybody. I would like to turn it over to Ann and thank everybody for their time, and I think it'll be worth your time, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. So as Lorraine mentioned, we asked each of our business ambassadors to give us their 3 best tips. So you're going to get far more than 3 tips. You're going to get 3 times however many that is. I'm not good at math, but follow along. And hopefully you will learn a lot today. Not everything is going to be interesting or relevant to everybody. We're all unique clubs on different stages in our journey. So take what works for you, leave what doesn't, and hopefully adapt it so it fits your club specifically. None of this is one size fits all. So the first tip or series of tips are about you, taking care of yourself. Like the airlines say, you need to put on your oxygen mask before you can assist others around you. And this is a business and an industry that will take everything from you if you're not careful. So you do need to step back and take care of yourself. And Frank says it perfectly in that you need to nurture and grow your emotional, physical, and spiritual aspects of yourself. So that whether that means, if you're in that startup phase, it might only mean taking 5 minutes to yourself. If you have to lock yourself in the bathroom in the gym and just breathe for a minute, do that. If your business is advanced a little more and you can afford to take a couple days away from the gym and regroup, by all means do that as well. But you do need to take care of yourself or you're not going to be any good for anybody else. And then the next slide, Cindy talks about taking the time to honor your family and honor their needs as well. The gym can suck you in and you can end up missing a lot of the things for your own children because you're supporting the activities of other people's children. So you want to be thinking about how are you setting up your business to step away, especially, she points out I think so wisely, is your kids get into upper elementary and middle school. You know, quality time with teenagers and preteens only exists within quantity time. I've raised 4 kids myself, and I cannot tell you how true that is for those of you who have not yet had the pleasure of parenting teens. They don't want to, you know, sit and talk to you because you happen to have 15 minutes. You have to have about 3 hours, and within that 3 hours they'll pop in for 15 minutes. So think about how are you setting up your business so you don't necessarily have to be at the gym every single evening, you know, coaching your level 10s until 9 o'clock, or you don't have to be on the road at every single gymnastics meet. Just stuff to consider as your business advances. There's a story that I'm always reminded when we talk about work-life balance, and it's about a man, and he every day opens his lunchbox and has a bologna sandwich and becomes extremely angry every single day because, again, bologna. So after hearing this day after day after day, one of his coworkers looks at him and says, dude, if you don't like bologna, why don't you ask your wife to pack something else? And the guy looks puzzled and he says, I pack my own lunch. And the punchline of the story says it all. Are you making your own bologna sandwich? Are you telling yourself a story that you have to be the one to be at every single session of every competition or coach every last kid until the gym closes every evening? And if that is the story you're telling yourself, I'm going to tell you, you don't have to be the one. You can have other people do these things. They may not do it as perfectly as you do, but you need to also make sure that you're not eating your own bologna sandwich. Cindy also points out that being present, that you do want to be present in your gym, but that doesn't mean that you have to be there 24/7. But you do have to let people know how you want to be communicated with, so you're able to mentor them or provide customer service in the case of your clients. And what's really important here is communicating how you want to be communicated with. For me, with my clients, I tell them all the time, please email me. If you email me, I will see the email. That's how I like to communicate. I can then set up the time to meet with you. Just because I'm at the gym doesn't mean that I'm necessarily available for a parent meeting. I might be on the floor helping, you know, guide a new coach. I might be meeting with my manager. So I'm not great at the I'll just drop in Ann's office and, you know, expect her to drop everything. So let people know how you want to be dealt with. And then also this is really important now, especially with the era of, you know, 24/7 texting and social media, that you're really careful about what your boundaries are in terms of social media. When we were prepping for this webinar, Lakeisha and I were talking a little bit about, you know, some of the guidelines that you might want to consider for social media. And personally for me, I am friends with parents who come to JAG on Facebook, but I have very strong boundaries about those friendships, which include if you message me on my personal Facebook about something having to do with gym business, I just very politely will say, you know, thank you so much for reaching out. Here's my email. Please, you know, let's make time to meet, but I prefer to be contacted on my business email about business things. So however you want to do that, whatever you want to do, there are a lot of other considerations with social media that could be a topic of its own webinar, and perhaps it should be. But boundaries are really important, especially now in this day of 24/7 communication. The next series of topics were really about cultivating gratitude, and several of our business ambassadors mentioned the concept of gratitude, including Frank's very good idea of cultivating gratitude for opportunities. I think keeping a gratitude journal is one of the most helpful things that I've done in the last year or two, where I do write down every evening 2 to 3 things that I'm grateful for. Some days it's real hard to figure out what those are, but sometimes it's I'm grateful this day is over, and that's okay too. But really stopping and realizing what an enormous opportunity we have in what we do every single day, influencing the lives of children and making our communities healthier and happier. We are in a really great industry, and sometimes we can lose sight of that when we just deal with the day-to-day pressures. So taking those moments to stop and think about what we're really doing and how awesome it is can also help with those rougher days. Probably the next series of tips were mentioned by almost every single business ambassador, and it was about educating yourself. First of all, congratulations. You all get gold stars. You've taken the first important step. on that by being here today. But Patty summed it up best by saying being an educational and learning junkie. For those of you who have not yet had a chance to meet Patty, Patty is one of my major role models and mentors in this industry, and she sits first row in every single learning opportunity she can possibly get her hands on. And this is somebody who's been doing this for as long as I've been alive, and she's still constantly trying to learn. So you definitely want to take a note out of her book and really get involved in learning. Jeff Metzger talks about getting outside of your business to show up at major events and keep learning there. So our regional congresses, our national congress, I hope if you're attending National Congress, you'll make the time to come in the day before for our business forum where all of these business ambassadors are planning, I think it's 5 hours of fun-filled education for you all. And the best part of that is the business forum is free as a USA Gymnastics member, so take advantage of that by all means. But to get out of your walls and show up and learn at every single event you're able to do. Now we recognize that it is expensive to do so, so we've also put together a list of resources. These are some of the books that our business advisors swear by. I would say on this one, my favorite one is probably the 4-Hour Workweek. There's a lot of really interesting tips in there about how to use your time wisely and get the greatest impact with the fewest hours. And on the next slide, if you have not yet read E-Myth Revisited, by all means do. It's probably one of the most excellent books on what it means to be an entrepreneur. And my very favorite book on this is Mindset by Carol Dweck. In fact, I like this book so much, we give this book to our new hires when they join our team here at JAG. It is an essential book about the concept of having a growth mindset, which is relevant not only in growing your business but also in working with our students. Here are a list of some of our favorite authors who've written a number of books. I am the personal fan of Seth Godin. He's my very, very, very favorite author out there. And if you've not yet read any of his books, they're very short. They're very good for those of us who fall on the ADD scale. And then Chip and Dan Heath have a bunch of really great books on decision making and marketing and behavioral change that I think many of us would find really helpful. And then finally, or I guess close to finally, blogs. Blogs are a terrific way when you're really busy and you don't have time to read big long books. Tumble Bear, which is Patty's blog, is terrific. I've listed my own blog only because people did mention it. And then again, Seth Godin, who's the bottom one here, does a daily blog, and it's seldom more than 500 words, so it's a very quick and easy read in the morning to just get you up and motivated and thinking differently about the day. And last but not least, podcasts or audiobooks you could also include here, I suppose. But podcasts are great for your commute to learn on the run, literally. You know, you can listen to them while you're exercising, taking a walk. I listen to them perpetually when I'm, cleaning the house, things like that. And again, it's just ways to sneak in educational time that doesn't take time away from the things that you have to do in your daily life. So something to consider. Also, if you do Audible books and you have a membership to Audible, I just discovered this because I have one, is that you can also get a free subscription to either the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times downloaded daily to your iPhone or iTunes, whatever, iTunes account, and you can listen to the news on the run too, which is a nice thing. Okay, the next one is make a will. This is one that is, a less than cheerful topic to be sure, and I believe at Congress, National Congress, Georgette Culler is going to be speaking about be prepared to kick the bucket. This topic is so important because while nobody wants to think about the world existing without them, you want to make sure that you take care of those you love and that you have a plan for your business, whether, who's it going to go to, your children, your grandchildren, key employees. You need to be thinking about the future and who to pass it down to. And even within your organization, you need to have essentially what we call here bus plans. If your academy director were to get hit by a bus yesterday, what are all of the things he or she knows that nobody else knows? And is it written down somewhere, and passwords and things like that? You have to make sure that you're prepared for the inevitable. The next thing I would say, this is actually a tip from me, is you want to learn how to make decisions. When you master the art of decision making, you absolutely are going to be much more successful in whether it's your hiring, firing, pricing, all of that. It's all about how to make really, really good decisions. And the most useful form I've found is a book called Decisive by Chip and Dan Heath. And I'm not going to give you a book report about it, but can we go ahead about 2 more slides? Perfect, thank you. It is a terrific book that's filled with really practical ideas of how to make better decisions, and I can't recommend it enough. Steve Greeley had a fantastic contribution where he talks about leadership objectivity and taking that step back to look at all of the sides of a business or leadership issue. And I think that this is really important when we're talking about making decisions, because too often we can get sucked in by the first version of the story that we hear, that we don't stop to say, okay, so this is what the parent said, but let's talk to the coach too. Let's talk to the child. Let's talk to the front desk. Let's talk to all of the people who are involved in this story and understand what they saw happen or what they understood to be the issue before we jump to a conclusion. As Don Henley once said, there's 3 sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. So make sure that you're hearing from all the key stakeholders before you jump to a decision. Next one, several ambassadors mentioned, spend time thinking about strategy. This can also be a really hard thing in the middle of 12-hour work days, but to try to spend, Frank's goal is to spend 15 to 30 minutes a day on strategic thinking for your life and business. I'll say one of the things that I do most every single morning is I do an activity that I learned about a few years ago, which are called 10 daily ideas. And I wake up and I grab a journal and I write down 10 ideas, and most of them are garbage, stupid, horrible ideas. But what it does do is it gets me into the process of waking my brain up and thinking creatively for the day. And then once in a while, really cool ideas do come out from my little exercise. So you can, take Frank's advice and spend 15 to 30 minutes. You can spend 3 minutes. But you do want to spend time planning for your life and your business and thinking outside of the box. It's absolutely useful. Mission, visions, and values. It's hard to get into any business topic without touching on these. So I don't want to be overly trite about it because we all know about them, but it's essential that you have a mission, vision, and value. Specifically your mission statement, if it's so long that nobody can remember it, make a short version for them to remember. We discovered this a few years back that I could not even recite our entire mission statement, so we made a short version, which is we do good things for kids. And every single decision we make, we come back to, is this good for kids? And if it's not, then we know the decision is not going to be one that holds to our mission, vision, and values. But absolutely make sure that you have those components. And then my dear friend Steve Greeley points out all of these mission, visions, and values are terrific, but if you only use them on, when you onboard people, when you hire people, and you don't expose everybody in the business on a regular, daily, weekly, and monthly basis, it really falls hollow. So make sure that you're including a component on who you are and what you believe in every single training that you do and in every interaction that you do, that you talk about what matters to your gym club. I thought Jeff Lola had an excellent point to make sure that your gym's visuals match your mission, vision, and values. I know we can be guilty of this. We are not an overly competitive gym. About 10% of our kids are on team, and we have a very wide range of children who are on our team. And yet there have been times where you walk in and you would think that all we have at this gym is team, because all we talk about are our team placements or displaying our trophies and banners. And so to make sure that you're also highlighting all of the children in your club and their accomplishments, and that you're talking about things other than just your competitive teams is key in making sure that you're matching what your visions and values are. Tina from New York City Elite had the great comment of discover your business personality and stick to it. Ditch the multiple personality. Are you the Ford or the BMW of your era? Are you, a multi-sport super convenient place, or do you have ultra competitive teams? Whatever it is, figure out what your niche is, what your nook is, and stay with that. Don't try to be all things to all people. If you are pleasing everybody, you're probably really pleasing nobody. So, know who your core clients are, know what it is that you want your gym to do, and stick to it, and don't get distracted from what it is that you're doing. Another concept of decentralizing your business came up with a couple of our ambassadors, and I think this is one that's an interesting concept for those of us whose clubs are growing and are getting beyond the sort of 500-600 kid mark. Jeff Metzger says, he sometimes feels like a broken record. If we could advance 2 more slides, that would be awesome. But that you're the hub of your business. Oh, have I completely lost you? I'm so sorry. Okay, let's go back to what you have, culture. Oh, there you go. Thank you. That you want to resign as being the central part of the wheel of your business, and decentralize and get other managers and other people who can take over some of the departmental leads. You want to do that obviously within size. If you're a very small gym club, that may not make as much sense. You may not have the capacity to hire full-time employees. But if there are little pieces that you can give to coaches who can take over small parts and do certain things, one, it's good for them. It gives them growth within your business and growth within their professional life and takes some of that pressure off of you. But if every single last decision has to go through you, you're going to exhaust yourself, and you're not going to be in a position to help your club grow. So think about decentralizing. Lakeisha, what do you have next?
We have culture next.
Okay, let's go to culture. So club culture is essential. Again, it's one of the things that almost everybody mentioned. And Jeff probably said it best. It's just the way the place feels when you walk in because of who you hire and how everybody treats each other. As a club owner or manager, your role in that is really vital. You're going to set the culture from the top. If you don't treat your employees with kindness and grace and do nice things for them and give them little surprises, whether it's buying people lunch or bringing in coffee or whatever, it will be very difficult for you to expect them to treat your customers with the same amount of gratitude and appreciation. So looking for how you're able to pepper in really small things that matter to them is important. One of the things that we do when we hire people is we have a form that we ask them to fill out. It's voluntary, but most people are willing to do it. That's called Getting to Know You. And it just asks some random questions like, do you like Starbucks? Do you like wine? What's your favorite color? Where do you like to shop? Whatever. And it allows us to get to know the things that they like, so when we're looking for ways to give them reward, we are able to customize that to them. So we don't hand somebody a Starbucks card who prefers coffee bean. And they really appreciate that. Cultural matches are essential also when you're talking about hiring and promoting and separating from people. If you have somebody who is a cultural misfit in your organization, no matter how well they perform their functional job, so you have somebody who's a terrific coach, but they don't fit your culture, you're on a collision course for disaster or for having your culture fundamentally changed. So, there's the old saying, hire the character, train the skill. I wholeheartedly believe that. Our jobs, especially on the higher end, are very skill-oriented, so you have to find the culture when you're hiring, especially the specialized coaches. Okay, next we have attention to detail. Patty talks about having attention to detail in every aspect of your business. Now, I don't disagree with that, but I would caveat it to say attention to detail in the most critical aspects of your business. You can drive yourself insane with every last detail, like down to what font you use in your emails and things like that might not really be that relevant. But on the really large things, paying really strict attention to, when a customer calls, what is that experience like for them? Is it easy to get answers to questions? Do they have to go through way too much red tape and be transferred to people just to find out a simple answer to a question? Make sure that you know Everybody who's answering the phone is in the know, and they can attend to those customers. Tina has a terrific point of playing a game and role-playing, walk through your business as a child, a parent, a coach, and figure out all of the things that you can improve on. And one of the things she discovered when she became a mom and was taking her daughter to gymnastics classes at New York City Elite is that she has quite possibly the worst doors in the world for strollers. And it was only when she was on the other end of it and realized, oh my gosh, what is one supposed to do with their stroller once they walk through? We don't have any places to park strollers, that she then implemented a new change in her gym that was essentially a stroller parking lot, since so many kids in New York City are transported that way. So going through your gym and getting down on, Jeff Lola has said in the past, get down on the level of a child and see things through their eyes, and you'll see all sorts of, flaws perhaps in the cleanliness of your gym or how things are laid out. So that's a fun game to play. Okay, next up we have location. So Tina talks about this, that location is key and to really do your research. Now most of us are already in our gyms, so that's not that useful. But if you're thinking about expansion, or either in a second gym, third gym, or moving into a larger facility, be really smart about where you're going with that. It can be very easy to be led into temptation because you can move into an area that maybe is more affordable and get the larger space. But in doing so, are you cutting off key people who might not attend your gym because every county, city has like their own divisions, whether it's a freeway or a river or whatever, where people just sort of don't go into that area because it's no longer convenient for them. So to be really, really smart. I know when we were looking for the location for JAG, the two driving factors for us was there were 3 private schools where kindergarten at that time cost $25,000 a year, and we were near a Target. And my feeling was, okay, if parents who can afford that kind of tuition will drive to this neighborhood, and Target was smart enough and every single mom goes to Target, that this is probably a pretty good neighborhood for us. So looking at those factors, looking at what's around you, is this an area that moms go into? Are there things nearby that they typically shop at anyway? Are all really important factors in your decision. Pricing, focusing on pricing is essential. Lynn suggests that you review all of your pricing strategies and make pricing a serious study and look at all kinds of sources, and then tweak your own pricing strategies. I've talked about this before. I think I wrote an article a year or 2 back on pricing for Technique that is probably still available online. A lot of what we do with pricing in the gymnastics industry is we look at what the other people around us are charging, and then we either charge a little bit more or a little bit less or just about the same. And while in theory that's not the most horrific way of figuring out how to price your services, turns out if you're basing your pricing off other people who aren't very good at doing it, all you've done is used a bad model. So you want to take a look at people outside the gymnastics industry, other kids' activities, other kids' service programs, health clubs, all sorts of things, and get a sense of how do they do their pricing. Is there anything that you can learn from them? And then go from there. Randy Sikora has an interesting idea about raising your prices twice a year, but holding your currently enrolled students to the same price for the year. So what that would mean is, say, for example, you raise your prices in August every year, or adjust your prices every year in August. You would adjust in August, but then maybe you would adjust again in January or February for anybody who was new. So your old students would get the August rate, but new students would get the new rate. It's an interesting idea. I've never thought of it before. I'm going to play with it and see what that would do. But I wanted to share that because I thought it was a very interesting idea. Excuse me, I'm fighting a bit of a cold. Okay, the next tip is to commit to get hiring and firing right. Jeff Metzger says, make 2017 the year you learn to really hire right and be in and stay in recruiting mode every single day of the year. I could not agree with this tip more. It's probably my favorite tip from the seminar, is staying in recruiting mode 365 days a year is essential. If you wait to hire or find people because you have a hole to vacate, you're going to hire anybody who walks through the door who has a reasonable resume and a pulse. And as we all know, and I'm sure we could do a whole seminar on bad hiring decisions, this is not the way to hire. So you want to be able to say no to that mediocre candidate and have the courage to fire people who aren't fitting your culture by having a good bench and having people around who you can easily move into positions. Now that's harder for a smaller club. We might only have 4 or 5 people on staff to have somebody just, on the bench is not really going to be useful. But you need to be thinking, where's that team kid who might be getting ready to retire? Do you have some sort of junior coaching program? Something where you're starting to teach the people who are tomorrow's coaches and getting them ready to prep. We do a quasi-junior coach program where we call the kids, we call them runners, and we use these kids, 15, 16 years old, to take kids into the gym and shadow with classes. Then once classes get situated, to help kids to the bathroom, to just help with coaches. They don't really spot or anything like that, but they're just in there, they're learning, and we're seeing who can be reliable. And then once we see that they're reliable, when they turn 16, we'll train them to be coaches. So that's just one idea. Lynn Ledford puts it in the only way Lynn Ledford can. Clean house, put on your big girl panties, and remove everything and everyone who's toxic from your business. To just do it now, and everybody will thank you for it. Those are hard decisions. Nobody enjoys firing somebody. Nobody enjoys having to try to fill that vacancy. But Lynn is 100% correct. If you have people in your business that are toxic, you can't keep them from polluting the rest of your club. So make a plan to either rehabilitate them, and if you can then share that plan with me, I'd be thrilled because I have yet to rehabilitate a truly toxic employee. But rehabilitate them or move them on out. Next one, if we can go a couple slides ahead, I think we should have staff training. You want to devote about Lynn says to devote 25% of your time in the next 12 months to creating or beefing up a super strong staff development program. I think, again, this is 25% of your time might make several of you, sort of throw up a little in your mouth, and I understand that. But whether it's 25% or 10%, really devoting time and looking on your calendar and saying, okay, I'm going to spend, next Monday morning, I'm going to go hole up in a Starbucks and spend 3 hours figuring out how, we're going to help develop our staff would be terrific. And that includes everything. Think about not just hiring and that initial staff training that you do when you bring people on board, but also ongoing staff training. What are you doing to make sure that everybody, just like the kids in your gym, are getting better every day? What are you doing to make sure that your coaches and your customer service folks are getting better every day? And that's, again, where you can go back to what Steve had said about making sure that you're talking about culture and mission and vision all the time with those people. Randy Sikora has an interesting concept also of educating your staff on how your business works. It'll help those coaches appreciate all the work that your administrative staff does and vice versa. I think this is a really good point. When your coaches understand a little bit more what all of your front desk staff is doing and vice versa, it's just much nicer, and they're able to appreciate each other's work. It's very easy to sort of think that somebody else's work is easier than the work that you're doing. But when you understand the trials and tribulations and the effort that goes into what everybody's doing to make the ship, aka your gym, sail, I think that that's a nice shared perspective. Randy also shares the tip of hosting your own little leadership conference. He suggests bringing in a headliner, so bringing in somebody to talk to your staff. But we also do something, what we call JAG Mini Congress. After our staff goes to regional and national congresses, the people that were lucky enough to go, they come back and they teach what they learned at Congress to the rest of our staff. So that definitely makes the cost of sending people to Congress amortize a little more nicely if you actually have them come back and teach everybody else. It also means that people that you're sending off to Congress are actually going to sessions and have to pay attention and learn something and bring it back and present. So I think that that's a win-win all around, and it helps capture that knowledge institutionally, and it doesn't just leave it with the individual who went to the Congress. So I thought that was a terrific idea from Randy. Pay well and give great benefits. Okay, everyone, as Lynn would say, no Sherlock. But you do want to really think about paying your staff and giving them benefits to create careers for those key staff members, not just jobs. And Patty said that so succinctly. You want to be able to create careers for people. You know what other people's jobs options are. You can see the people who you lose to their dream jobs. Now, for us in Los Angeles, the people we lose, it's often to acting or something like that. Okay, I can't compete with that. But I also know that we would lose people to regular teaching jobs. We just had a woman who was getting her master's degree in nutrition, and she was coaching our compulsories. And she finished her master's degree in her clinical hours, and really we could see was struggling that she didn't really want to be a nutritionist. And so we loved her, and we sat down with her, and were able to actually present a career for her that we now have one of the more overqualified compulsory coaches probably in the country, but working with our kids, and she's terrific. So get creative, talk to people about what people really want and what they see, and let them see that there could be a potential for a real career here, not just a job. Next slide. Create and enforce teaching standards. This is from Jeff Lola. He's 100% right. Every instructor needs to follow some sort of curriculum with your classes that's based on levels. Not only does it allow your students to be enrolled with ability and age group and creating success for everybody, but it also makes sure that you're teaching in safe progressions. Heaven forbid if a child gets injured, that you can show that you've taught those progressions, that the kid just didn't walk into the gym for the first time ever and do a back handspring, that you've done all of these drills and they can hold a handstand and all of that good stuff. So make sure that every single person in your gym is teaching that. Everybody's going to bring their own flavor of teaching. Their personalities are going to be different, but if you're having girls beginner gymnastics, that Monday class should look very similar to what happens on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, in order to make sure that the kids are progressing safely, and then when they move on, the teacher in intermediate knows that the kids have all accomplished certain skills. The next one came from Dave Hawley, which is solving your customers' problems, and I love this next slide, where he says, imagine you're a mom sitting at a kitchen table. You have a 2-year-old kid and you're scared to death. You are looking for some activity to put her into. What will you do? Listen to that mom and hurt for that mom. And that's how Dave says he begins all of his marketing meetings, really thinking about what does that mom want? What is going on with that mom? And this is essentially the linchpin in marketing. You have to do this. You have to think about what that mom wants. Marketing isn't talking about what you do great. What you do great is only relevant if it matters to that mom. And so when you really are thinking about, most of our marketing can and should be aimed at preschoolers, beginning level gymnasts, and you talk about we've won, 78 state championships over the last 12 years, that mom of a 2-year-old, that doesn't resonate to her. She's not thinking about a state championship for a 2-year-old kid. What does a mom of a 2-year-old think about? She thinks about, is it safe? She thinks about, are the teachers nice? She worries about, is my child, developmentally appropriate? Like, is she going to be too not good enough or too good? That's what a mom of a 2-year-old listens to. So you have to always make sure you're taking the perspective of your customer when you're working on your marketing. This is one of my tips, that it's in the end it all comes down to relationships. You really want to get good at making relationships and servicing relationships with your athletes, your families, your staff, your peers in the industry. When you do that, work just becomes significantly easier and more joyful. And every time I see problems that crop up, it comes down to being a relationship issue. So some of my favorite tips about relationships is assume good faith in people until you're proven otherwise. Seek to understand before seeking to be understood. And the better you're at taking the perspective of your key stakeholders, just like David mentioned in marketing, but this is true everywhere, the easier it is to meet their needs and match it with what your club's needs are. So really working on understanding the people around you and caring about them will go very, very far. And Steve Greeley has the terrific advice, is leave everything better than you found it. He said this. Whether it's a business system, an employee, a student, a customer relationship, or even the table at which you eat lunch, leave it better than you found it. And think about the exponential difference that would make in the world. And I couldn't agree more. every single thing you do, you should leave it just a little bit better. One more slide. All right, so our goal as the business ambassadors is to make your business better in 2017. We're really anxious to hear how else we can help you. Any feedback you can give us on areas that you're struggling with so we can help in terms of writing articles, making our Congress presentations better. We really do want to hear from you, so please feel free to reach out to any of us individually or via Lorraine, and we will most certainly try to get you answers to help make your business grow in 2017. And I want to remind you again to save the date of the National Business Forum. It's Wednesday, August 16th from 1 to 6. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We have some really, really good info coming about making magic for your business, and we really look forward to seeing you there. It's a terrific opportunity not just to hear from the business ambassadors and from key leaders in USA Gymnastics, but also to meet each other, and that's one of our goals as business ambassadors, is to get all of you to get to know each other so you can form your own networks and learn from one another, because there's so many great brains out there that we want to help each other just get better and better and better. So I want to thank you for listening to my cold, raspy voice this morning, this afternoon for those of you on the East Coast, and I'm going to turn it back to the folks at headquarters.
Thank you very much. And we really appreciate your time putting together everything, crafting the message for our clubs, and letting them know what we have for the future. So we appreciate your time.
All right, and we'll actually jump into some of your questions that were submitted during today's webinar. One of the first questions was actually something that Ann addressed a little earlier in today's webinar, but we'll go ahead and read it for everyone who may have joined in a little later. This question, Ann, is regarding social media communication. So do you have anything in particular that you would say to a gym parent who would send you a Facebook friend request to your personal account, preferably something, as you said before, polite and appropriate way to respond to them when they're contacting you on social media accounts through personal?
Yeah, so I think, excuse me, I think that every club owner has to decide for themselves what they want their social media policy to be, and I totally respect individual differences and levels of comfort with, you know, whether you want to be friends with a team parent or don't want to be friends. For me, I have I don't have a problem with people being friends with parents on social media. They may not be friends with children. That is an absolute hard no, but, you know, it's hard to tell people who they can be friends with in their free time. And if people are adults, they're adults and they can do what they want to do. But my advice is always very, very strict boundaries as to what's personal and what's professional. And so, for instance, I have people I'm friends with, and I never request them, but if they request me, I do accept. And you need to learn to use your privacy settings. That's one of the things. I'm hardly the social media expert, but find somebody who's under the age of 16 who will know how to do the privacy settings and have them set yours. So, you know, not everybody can see everything on your wall if that's not what you want. Like, you can do all of that. In terms of messaging, I just very politely say, hey, thanks for reaching out. When it comes to business, you know, I'd like to keep business and personal separate, so please email me here for, you know, I give them my email, remind them of my email for anything related to JAG. And when you do that enough and you do it politely and you do it firmly, people begin to respect that. I also say whenever we do parent meetings, you know, that truthfully, there is no such thing as a gymnastics emergency that I need to be the one who's called first. If there's truly a gymnastics emergency, call 911. You know, it is not a gymnastics emergency that your daughter got in the car at 9 o'clock after practice and is crying because Coach John was mean to her on the bar rotation, that you need to reach out to me at 9:30 at night and say, oh my goodness, what are we going to do about Coach John? That can wait until the morning. You know, and when everybody, one, has had some sleep and feels a little bit more calm anyway, and two, it doesn't need to be solved at that moment. And so really remembering not everything needs to be addressed at the moment that somebody wants it addressed. You can very calmly say, very sorry she's upset. I will be happy to discuss this with you in the morning. I'll be at the gym at whatever time you get in the morning. So you can do it nicely and lovingly, but strong boundaries with very small doors in them would be my suggestion there.
Wonderful. Our next question is regarding advice on where to get pricing strategies.
Parking?
Pricing strategies.
Oh, pricing strategies. I was like, parking strategies? Oh, honey, let me tell you about parking. Okay, pricing strategies. Well, one, I did write an entire article on pricing strategies. I think it was last year, and I believe it was in Technique, and maybe Lorraine can help me remember where that is. But I can find that link. If whoever has the pricing strategy question, if you email me, jaggym@hotmail.com, I will happily send you the article that I wrote, and it has a lot of resources in there. But generally speaking, some of the places that I look for pricing inspiration is I do look at what other people charge. I look at what the most expensive activities in town are, which tend to be music lessons, ice skating. Who else is expensive? Probably music lessons and ice skating are going to be your two best bets. They're pretty pricey, and sort of see what they're charging. And then I also do look at what the market will bear. And so again, this is going to depend on what area of the country you're in and what the socioeconomic level of your clients are and things like that. But looking at adult health clubs, like where are the grown-ups working out and what are they paying for, whether it's their yoga classes or their spin classes or their health club memberships. And that starts to give you a sense of sort of what are people paying for in that area. And then you have to sort of decide from there how you're going to go. Are you going to be the high-cost person? Are you going to, I'm going to tell you, my guess is anybody listening in right now is not the low-cost leader in their market, because mostly the low-cost leaders end up going out of business, or they're so busy working their tushies off right now that they can't come to this. So you want to at least be in the middle, but I'm going to advocate be so good that you can charge the most in the area. When you do that, you are then able to help the people who can't afford your product. And that's what we do. We charge a lot, and then we're able to give a nice number of tuition discounts to people who can't afford us or have fallen on hard times. And we're able to do that because we have a nice healthy bottom line with which we can give back to our community. So those are a few suggestions.
Wonderful. Our next question regards to how to increase enrollment. So do you have any advice for increasing enrollment at gyms? Yeah,
my first piece of advice of increasing enrollment, this might sound tongue-in-cheek, is don't lose kids in the first place. The churn that goes through, we worry a lot about trying to bring in new kids, which we need to worry about. Please don't misunderstand me. But don't let them leave. Figure out why kids are leaving. Stay in contact with those families who leave. People who've already bought from you are the most likely people to buy from you again. It's much easier to get them to trust you again than getting a totally new client. So work really hard on retention, really brag about the coaches that are keeping their kids in the classes and are progressing them, the team coaches that don't lose a kid, kids between seasons, things like that. Celebrate them and look at what the bright spots are in your gym that are keeping kids. As far as attracting new kids, I think that there are the best thing you can do is figure out how to increase word of mouth among your parents. Because you can run slick ads and you can do, bring a friend days and things like that. And sometimes those things work, really well. But the most likely way you're going to get somebody to come to your gym is another mom at the park sees that kid's child climbing up the ladders, effortlessly and says, wow, how does your kid do that? And it's like, oh, because my kid goes to this place called JAG. So that's what you really want to try to do is increase them. So some people have a lot of success with giving small tuition breaks or thank yous to clients who refer somebody and they sign up. I'll say honestly, for me, that hasn't worked that well. My clients aren't that interested in that. But what they are interested in is when we know that somebody has come, we just write them an email and say, thank you so much for referring, so-and-so. it really means a lot to us. And that makes them feel really good. So that was right. And the other one that we are doing now that I think has had some nice success is when somebody enrolls with us new for the first time, we give them 2 really nice postcards that invite that they can give to a friend, and the friend can come and try class for free. And that works for us because we don't do free trials. So that's just another little thing, and it's of value to them because they can then give it to their friend.
Wonderful. Well, Ann, we want to thank you again for guest hosting with us, and thank you to all of our business ambassadors for sharing.
Yes, a huge thank you for them because honestly, they made this so easy. It made it look like I got all the credit, but it was really their wonderful idea. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And again, to contact our business ambassadors, you can go to the Member Services page, click on Club Services on the left-hand menu, and then there is a link that says Business Ambassadors on the Club Services homepage. So again, thank you so much, Ann. Thank you all for attending today, and we will see you at the next USA Gymnastics webinar in March.
All right. Take care, everyone.